Hi everyone, my name is Moonshine and I am the host of today's AMA with FutureVerse. Is another interesting project we have today on GoldDiggers platform. It is an expansive initiative. It has an expansive initiative aimed at building an open, scalable, and interoperable infrastructure for the metaverse. And they intend to integrate advanced technologies. So through this AMA, we're going to see how some of these advanced technologies like AI, blockchain would seamlessly create an immersive virtual environment where users can interact, create, and transact. So we have Aaron here on the mic with us. So Aaron, can you kindly give a brief introduction about yourself, your FutureVerse team, where you guys are from, and how you guys started the project FutureVerse?
Yeah, so Aaron McDonald, co-founder and CEO over here. I'm actually in Auckland, New Zealand. So it's a brisk morning here. And we are a company that was founded about 3 years ago now, by bringing together, at that time, 11 different media and tech companies to form one big integrated media tech company. Those companies had been working in the domain of gaming technology, working with big IP holders, and working in Web3. So we wanted to bring those companies together, who'd been collectively building for about 6 or 7 years their individual bits, to create one platform that could solve the problems that stopped the metaverse from being real. And our goal is to try and deliver on the promise that everybody imagines in their head when they see something like the Ready Player One movie, of truly ownable and interoperable content that can go between any application. And so we set about building a business, combining those bits of technology to achieve that outcome and to make owning content meaningful for Web3 users.
Interesting. Thanks for talking about the core vision and all of that. So really, I think to start with, could you like kind of expand on the core vision and explain how FutureVerse differentiates itself from other metaverse projects currently in the space?
Yeah, totally. One of the big things I think that could help to understand our vision is that we don't believe there is a metaverse. People go and say, I'm going to build a metaverse, or this is my metaverse. We believe that to be kind of a silly statement. It's like saying, I'm going to go and build an internet. There is only the metaverse, and the metaverse is just the evolution of the internet. It's like the next stage of the internet where content is more immersive, where it's more agentic, where AI plays a bigger role, where the way that we engage with the user experience of the internet feels more like a video game, but it's not a game. And so if you think about like the way that the internet is evolving, it's evolving into the metaverse. And another good way to think of that is people might look at someone like NVIDIA, for example, and say, well, that's an AI company. NVIDIA is a metaverse company. They make hardware that renders immersive environments like games. They make hardware that creates agents that live in this alternate reality based on our data. They create synthetic environments, digital twins of our real world to train robots. And so they're building the metaverse. And that's really what we see as the vision of where the internet is going, as opposed to being a game itself. And so if you think of the world in that way, then building a metaverse doesn't make any sense. But what makes sense is trying to make it possible for people who believe in digital property rights, like we all do in Web3, to take the things they love with them, the things that they own with them, wherever they go. So if I've got data about me, or digital value, or content, or an avatar, my identity, I should be able to take that everywhere, and it should be really easy. Just like I can browse the internet now seamlessly and go from site to site to site, no matter who made that site using my browser. We want that experience to be the same for anyone in this new version of the internet. And in order to do that, there's like some really hard technical problems that you have to solve. And so we broke the business into these kind of 3 bits, which is, solve the really deep tech protocol problems to give ownership meaningfulness by making it possible to go everywhere. And so there's a bunch of cool protocols down there rooted in the root network, which is our layer 1 blockchain. It's about 30 different custom runtimes built in there to make interoperability, no matter where your assets are stored, what chain they're on, make it more interoperable in this immersive internet. We invented a new way to create 3D assets that could make it possible to create it once and have it go anywhere, no matter what platform, if it was mobile or desktop or console or web browser, no matter what engine, if it was Unreal or Unity or 3JS, no matter what kind of content. Was it like an immersive game? Was it a more social experience? You could make it once and take it everywhere with you. And then on top of that, we built up a lot of expertise in generative AI. So we have 2 of the most competent research teams in the world building 2 models that help create these immersive environments. One team specializes in 3D generations. The other one specializes in music and sound. If you put those 2 things together, you can create worlds. And then at the kind of last part of the business, we work with the world's largest brands and biggest IP to show how all of this can come together, to demonstrate people that this interoperability is real and that it can be really meaningful for users to truly own the content that they have.
Interesting. So I think it's safe to say that I learned something from you just now, that you don't create a metaverse, that it's just there, right? It
Yeah.
was thinking about it from that aspect is a very good one, which I appreciate. So
It's a really important one for society because this is happening whether we believe it or not, or whether we like it or not. And more and more of the decisions about how the world works are being made in these digital spaces. They're creating these data simulations of the world we exist in to get more tokens to train AIs, for example, because we've run out of language tokens that we can scrape from the internet. And so to make smarter AIs, they create these synthetic worlds and harvest tokens from them, or they put robots out in the real world and harvest tokens from them. And so they're building up this like very comprehensive digital twin of the world and the environment around us, so that they can feed AIs that then go and help make decisions and content and drive research reports and all this other stuff that affects our physical world. And so it's not this like thing that is just a game that's being played over there. It's the future of how humanity exists inside of the world that we live in today.
interesting. And I think when you were explaining earlier about how you guys are combining each of those technologies, mentioning about the 3D character, how it's able to move through the FutureVerse and all of that. So
Yeah.
I know that in some kind of way, the integration of AI would be used, right? So
Yeah.
I'm really interested in knowing how this leveraging this AI to create a dynamic environment and responsive NPC. So basically, I know that the choice of models and training methods affects how well the AI can learn and adapt, which is critical for creating environments and NPCs that behave realistically. So I want to know, like, how are you guys going to create this? What are the should I say computational models that you guys are going to use to achieve this?
Yeah, it's a really good question. We if we step back a little bit and we think about why Web3 technology matters. And it really comes down to one thing, and that was the same thing that was solved in the Bitcoin white paper, which is this double spend problem. And solving this double spend problem means that we could own a digital thing on the internet for the first time. Before that, it was impossible to prove independently that you could own something that was digital, because the digital world was made to be copied and replicated time and time again. And so when they solved this problem, we now had digital property rights. And everything in Web3 that is meaningful, at least, should be built on this idea of digital property rights, because that is what the technology fundamentally solves. And so if you take that concept of owning a Bitcoin as a piece of property, a digital piece of data that you can actually own, and apply that to other important things in our life, then you might say, well, I want to own my identity just like I can own a Bitcoin, or I want to own content just like I can own a Bitcoin, or I want to own the data about me just like I can own a Bitcoin, or I want to own my friends list and my social graph just like I own a Bitcoin. And so if you take that approach to why Web3 is important, you might say that that's also important for intelligence, because that's going to be something that, first of all, feeds off of that data, but also, and that data is very valuable because it's been used to teach these machines. So why shouldn't you own a piece of it? But also, it gives you agency in a world that might be increasingly centralized if you can own your intelligence and you can own that digital NPC, that agent that acts on your behalf. It gives you a choice of being a contributor to the system rather than a slave of the system. And so for agents and NPCs, we took the same approach as we did for content, which is how can we make it truly ownable? About 2018, one of the companies we acquired built the idea of non-fungible intelligence, and that is ownable agents, and patented that idea. We now have, I think, something like 30 pending or granted patents in the domain of Web3 and agent ownership, memory ownership, context ownership, all of the things that are important to give users the ability to take the soul of a non-fungible intelligent agent with them between lots of different models and lots of different applications. I'll expand that a little bit, because people often focus on the computational models, or what LLM are you using, or which chatbot framework are you using. And the point is, they will evolve over time. There will be lots of them. There'll be a new one tomorrow, and whatever one someone tells you is the best, it's going to be superseded the next day. What's really important is to be able to take the data that drives those agents with you, and the essence and the memories and the experiences that your agent has between any model. Because when you have interoperability, you have ownership. Without interoperability, you have no ownership. There's no point owning an NFT, for example, that can only exist in the game of your project. You might as well just be a Web2 user. If you can take that thing everywhere, wherever you like, then your ownership has some meaning. And so we've tried to do that for NPCs, or non-fungible intelligence, is provide a protocol that means you can take the essence of your agent with you, no matter which app you interact with, which model you interact with, which computational service you interact with. It becomes the essence of that, the soul of that becomes yours.
Interesting. And I really appreciate your answer, and the fact that you're able to cover the technical aspect of the question is something notable. You know, when you were answering, you mentioned about NFTs, being able to translate them so, they can move something to add more meaning or value owner of an NFT. I think that's something really worth noting out, because most of those projects creating NFTs, at the end of the day, you find out that it really has no value, just the hype around it, and that's all. And this has really decreased the interest of, owners of NFTs in the space. So seeing what you guys are trying to build, I'm sure that projects who really want to move ahead would definitely want to collaborate with you guys. And I think this brings up the next question I had in mind. And the question was about like interoperability, which I
Mm.
know is a major challenge in metaverse, other metaverse projects because of diverse technical standards of different platforms, you know, decentralized versus centralization, user experience, and all of that. So, how are you guys able to navigate through each of these things? Because I know this could pose as a major challenge. So, what approach are you guys using to ensure that you build something seamless and enhance
Mm.
connectivity with other platforms?
Yeah, it's a good question, and there's like two parts to that. The one part is the seamless, which I'll kind of extract, and the other part is interoperable. On the seamless side, one of the things that we've focused on is trying to make that onboarding journey to Web3 really simple. Because once you're inside Web3, it is actually quite it is quite a good UX compared to Web3, Web2 in a lot of ways. Some of it is clunky, but once you're onboarded and you have a wallet and you have some tokens and you can pay gas and you can interact with the DApp, in some cases it can be actually simpler than the Web2 experience where you don't actually have to sign up, you know, to jump from one app to the other because your wallet is doing that job for you. The process of paying for something is much smoother and lower friction. And so there are these like advantages once you get over that onboarding hurdle, and a lot of people kind of get put off on that onboarding hurdle, or people take the approach of you know, abstracting the Web3 away, and therefore the user gets none of the benefits of it. You know, Web3 just becomes another server. And so we built a thing called Pass into the root network, and Pass is a native smart wallet that allows users to onboard from wherever they are. Could be using their TikTok ID or their Roblox ID or their Epic Games ID or their Meta ID or their mobile number or their email address. Wherever they come from, they can one-click onboard, and they can have this smart wallet, this safe smart wallet experience. And then once they're in there, we built this thing called the gas fee exchange, which allows projects who onboard those users to allow the user to pay in their native token. So the user never has to learn about the underlying chain or get some coins to go and spend gas or do any of that. They onboard through the project and they can start using straight away. So like that's a really important kind of bit about the seamless side of things. And we've been really successful at working with big brands and big communities and big sports teams around the world who are just starting to onboard now, who see that as a really great step for them to bring their users into this space. And I think we have about 15 million accounts signed up between these partners to come on over the next few months. So that's the first thing, like make that first onboarding journey really seamless. Pass also allows users to connect things from different chains. So you might have a collectible or an avatar on Ethereum, or you can connect that to Pass, and then when you log into an application or experience, it has access to that as well. So no matter where your things are, Pass can surface them up to the application so that you can own stuff truly where you want to own it, and then we can make it interoperable. On top of that, there's some really great protocols inside the root network. Asset Register is one of them, powered by Silo, and that allows people to have the data about their assets accessible to any kind of experience in a verified way. So now the metadata about my avatar can transit through my Pass into an application. And the job of the root network is really to try and enhance interoperability wherever your assets might be stored, and create like more meaningful and more seamless experiences between those things. Instead of replacing them, kind of act like what layer 0 does for token interoperability, but at that next layer for content interoperability.
Interesting. I think you could as well just like walk us through some of the, I don't know if you guys already have existing partnerships. So maybe
Yeah.
you could walk us through the kind of strategic partnerships or integrations that you guys are pursuing to expand the FutureVerse ecosystem.
Yeah, we roughly kind of focus on, I guess, probably two major areas. And then we've got a kind of ground up, bottom up focus from the native Web3 side. From the top side, we're focusing on big brands and sports teams or big Hollywood IP. So example might be our partnership with FIFA, where we worked with them at the last World Cup to bring the FIFA AI League, an AI-powered mobile game, to market. Or it could be a brand like Reebok, where we're helping them co-create content using our generative 3D that people could create a unique Reebok pump shoe that they could take into Fortnite or Roblox or any one of our games and experiences. There's a whole bunch of big sports teams and sports franchises that we'll be announcing in the next month or two that fall into that category, with huge audiences around the world that are bringing their users to these new kinds of digital and immersive and agent-driven experiences. So that's kind of like one focus area, sports and sports communities. Another would be like the big IP. So we have, for example, partnership with Warner Brothers and the Ready Player One IP to take that franchise, which most of the world kind of knows as the metaverse, and bring that IP to life in our version of that world called the Readyverse, where anyone can come in, use this interoperable content, and even launch third-party games that are built in our network or on other networks, just like you would from the Epic Games Store, for example, but do that in that more like immersive internet experience way. So big Hollywood IP, big sports teams and franchises at the top end is like our main focus. Then we have like the bottom-up approach, which is our Root Networks Labs or TRN Labs team, and they're working with the native Web3 developers to onboard them and bring them into our ecosystem, connect them to these tools, and allow them to offer these kinds of new types of interoperability to their users. And the Readyverse team works alongside game studios, independent studios or larger studios, to help take those tools that are specifically built for gaming and interoperability inside of gaming and onboard them into the platform.
Interesting. Thank you so much for explaining and walking us through each of these partnerships that you guys have had. So I think the next part of it I'd like us to go into is how are you guys, I know it was mentioned like creators coming on board in the project, so I really want to know what you guys have to offer to empower these creators or community members. What features does FutureVerse offer to support content creation, distribution, and monetization for users, especially because the globe has evolved to the time of content creating and all of that. So I'm sure everyone is excited to hear this part of it too.
Yeah, I think you can kind of see that what we care about is making content valuable, truly valuable, by making it ownable and interoperable. And that's the thing that Web3 is supposed to do that's different to the rest of the world when it comes to content creation. So, when you build with us, we can help you to deliver that benefit to your users of something that is interoperable and ownable. We have some really great platforms in the ecosystem that make it simple for anyone to do that in a no-code way, whether you want to create your own agent or that can go out and, generate content on your behalf, or create an avatar, or create a meme. We've got really great tools that allow people to do that in a simple way, powered by these underlying Web3 things. You can take our SDKs like the Pass platform and embed that in your applications so that users can one-click onboard into your thing from anywhere they are. The tools for creating immersive content, so the 3D tools, that's called Altered State, and you can go in there as an end user and prompt an environment, an object, a character to life, and take that into the games and applications and experiences that are connected to our ecosystem. So it's all about empowering that interoperability and giving the tools to enable people to do that. On top of that, we have programs that help onboard those developers, and the TRN Labs team is running the Odyssey program right now. So if you're a builder out there, check out the TRN Labs channel, jump into the Odyssey program, and they have a whole bunch of support from partners around the ecosystem who are helping with different bits of that. So if you're doing something in AI, for example, the Ether team will give you free compute alongside that incubation, and grants, and they run a grants program that allows people who are successful in bringing meaningful traction to the network to receive rewards as part of doing that as well.
Nice. Thank you so much for answering that question. So let's move on, because we're gonna be getting some community question, and I just want us to kind of cover it. So I still had a bit of question but let me just still ask the question. So I know this way of empowering creators, communities is definitely a way to incentivize them. So I really want to know how the revenue allocation would be like. So these content creators, would they be earning like in the FutureVerse token or USDT, like a stable coin or something? And is it solely all going to them, or will it be splitted with the FutureVerse ecosystem? You could as well just walk us through how the tokenomics structure would be like to enable this monetization process to be seamless.
Yeah, I think it really depends on the project's own goals from a monetization perspective. We're providing the tools that enable people to create that ownable content, interoperable content, onboard their users seamlessly. Of course, it's connected to Web3 Rails, so you can collect payments from the users, and the way that we've built, say, if you're building like an NFT collection, is a little bit different to most networks. In many networks, those things have to be built in a smart contract, which means that from a technical perspective, the logic runs in a container, and it can't be enforced by the chain. The chain is kind of abstracted from the contract itself to a certain extent. And what that has led to is a world where creator royalties, for example, aren't honored because someone builds a wrap around that contract that doesn't enforce royalties. In the root network, the smart contract is actually built into the chain code for those kinds of things. And so it's enforced in network chain code. And so if you're a creator and you want to split royalties between different parties, you can do that, and you can trust that the chain will execute that, and it becomes much harder to kind of escape that, which I think is a really good thing, because that is what kind of funds the ongoing community investment and makes it viable for creators to go and create content out there. So those tools for splitting royalty payments or transaction costs and those kinds of things are already built into the network. One little feature that's also unique is the way the tokenomics of the root network works is, I mentioned earlier, this any token gas economy, where if you have a token for your project, users can actually use that to pay gas on the network. What happens with that transaction is the tokens get put into this thing called a vortex. It's kind of like an index of all the token activity on the network that is able to be won by people who stake in the network. So if you stake root, you receive Vortex as your block rewards. And so now your project can have this seamless onboarding, but also get exposure to everyone who's a validator in the network, because those tokens can be part of the block rewards that those stakers who are invested in the network's success with their stake, they can now get exposure to your token as part of that, which is quite a unique thing. And so plenty of ways for tokenomics to or kind of the economic design of the root network to help content creators to do their job better. If you kind of go up the ladder a little bit more, the Universal Blueprint Framework, which allows that asset interoperability we talked about earlier, where you can create something and it can go everywhere, that actually has some really neat features of monetization as well that can enable things like subscription models as opposed to like a one-time purchase, or a streaming model like pay-per-use for that content. So there's some really cool tools under the hood that can, if you get more sophisticated, you can start to take advantage of as well.
Nice, interesting. Thank you so much for going into details about that. I think the next aspect of the project that I would like to ask is, the security. I know that for the fact that you guys are incorporating that, the blockchain is definitely essential to ensure transparency. But could you still, kind of briefly explain what measures are implemented to safeguard user data and secure transaction within the platform? Are you guys audited? Are you guys KYC, doxed? Just walk us through all of that.
I mean, the whole founding team is doxed, so that's something that's kind of been part of our journey, is being out there in the open, good or bad. People can look us up. We have a pretty well-respected group of investors in the FutureVerse and board members. So you can check that out as well. We're backed by Ripple, by 10T, and a bunch of the other kind of bigger funds in the space that people would know and respect. Our board contains, very experienced business people who've led public companies in the past. So high degree of kind of capability and accountability there. The network code is audited on a regular basis by independent teams. No one is perfect when it comes to anything in that domain. All you can do is make sure you put good processes and systems and redundancies in place. And so people can kind of check out the network side of things and see those audits that have come through for all the core network runtimes. From a network perspective, we're not trying to roll our own crypto or invent new consensus models. We're leveraging off some of the protocols that are out there that are well tested and well hardened. Root Network's built on top of the Substrate ecosystem, which was created by Parity and the Polkadot team. So it's been well tested from a network consensus point of view and safety point of view. So try to create best practices in all of those areas around safety and security.
Nice. The fact that the whole team is doxed, that's possible already. So thank you so much for, walking us through that. So I think I really want to know, what are you guys' plans for the next few weeks and months to come? What are you guys working?
Yeah, there's a lot. We actually shipped more than 10 products and features in March alone. So our team is very busy. But really kind of, if you sum up the next stage for us, it's about taking all the stuff we've built over the last couple of years and scaling it with our partners. So starting to announce those bigger partnerships, onboard their users, connect them to these applications and protocols, and show how it all works at some scale is really the focus for the next kind of 3 to 6 months.
Nice. I think just overall, this was a question that was in my head, but I kind of forgot it. So now that I remember, I'll just ask it now. So I wanted to know now, because you guys are building like a future verse, a lot of users are going to be on your platform in real time
Mhm.
and constantly, because across the globe, if you have different diverse individuals using your platform at different time, you're always going to see people who are active. So you may have projects that would like want to run some kind of advertisement on your platform, like on the FutureVerse, like
Uh-huh.
for project that has a merch store and like wants to build the brand, just to kind of have like some ads so users can see what they have. So would you guys be incorporating something like that for a fee,
Yeah.
of
So
course, for a fee?
yeah. Um, so I think probably the closest thing we have in our ecosystem to something like that would be the Readyverse, where our focus is this more immersive internet, and so inside the Readyverse, which is the kind of 3D environment that's built off of that Ready Player One IP, you can create a showroom, and that showroom can be an immersive space that advertises the community or the product or the digital goods or the game or experience that you're building. So users who are inside that immersive environment can go to these showrooms and learn about that thing. They can potentially download it or purchase it from there. They can launch the game if it's a game. And so that's our version of that kind of advertising experience if you take it down that path.
Nice. Thank you for working us through. I think before I open it up to the community, I know we've gone back and forth about different aspect of the project. There could be something we probably haven't cut across. So I don't know, Aaron, if there's something you'd still like to expatiate on or mention that we haven't before I move or open the floor to community questions.
No, I think we covered a lot of ground actually. So happy to answer any questions in the last few minutes.
Okay, thank you so much. So let's have Ayo. Ayo, you have been unmuted. Can I ask your question? Hello, Ayo, you have to unmute your mic to ask a question.
Good day, everyone.
Hi.
Hey, Aaron.
Hey,
It's nice having you here.
thank you.
So, I like what you've been doing. This project of yours, I like your FutureVerse. So, I've been, I've been, yeah, I've come across your website once. I was going through it, and I loved everything. I loved everything I was in there. But my question for you is, normally, every project goes through struggles. Yes, every project goes through struggles. Could you share some of the challenges you faced during the development of FutureVerse and how those experiences shaped you, how they shaped your strategy in moving forward?
Thanks for that very deep question. I think probably the thing that we have struggled with in the past was that we took on a very big challenge with lots of moving parts, and we're building across 3 or 4 individually complex domains, and trying to get those things to work with each other in a seamless way. And until you complete that job of building, it's very hard to people to imagine what the outcome looks like. So being able to communicate to people what the outcome looks like in the absence of those bits being finished underneath has been a tricky process for us. Now that we're at the end of that journey, I think it's becoming much clearer to people, and they can see it and they can play with it and they can touch it. They can experience it. But for the last few years, it's been a difficult path to get the attention I think we deserve because of the fact that it's been so complex. And if you're doing something that's like a little bit more narrow and smaller, it's easier for people to grasp in the early stages. Whereas what we're doing is harder and more complex, so it's hard to grasp in the early stages. We hope that that it is more meaningful down the track, and it creates a much bigger thing, but it's harder to get that flywheel going. So that would be kind of a bit of a learning on this process, is trying to figure out how to communicate something that is complex but not apparent yet, and show how these different bits come together. I wouldn't say we've done a perfect job of that, but it's definitely been a challenge and a unique learning experience for us.
Well, thank you. Thanks very much. I really appreciate it.
Cheers.
Yeah, thank you so much for that question, Ayor. So I think I'll mute at Jody. Jordan, you can ask the question, please.
Yeah, I hope I'm audible, guys. How's it going?
Good, thanks. How are you?
Yeah, I'm good, Aaron. So I really appreciate the opportunity coming on here, asking a question. So basically, my question is going to be concerning the AI. I just wanted to know, aside from improving the user experience of the platform, I just wanted to know what new innovative ways, you have for the AI, the use cases. Which ways are they being explored within the FutureVerse? Are there plans to leverage the AI for personalized content curation or advanced content moderation?
We already do curation and moderation as part of our pipeline. So if you think about the Reebok experience I spoke about earlier, where a user inside of Instagram can visit Reebok Impact. They can upload a memory, a photo that they love from Instagram, and create a 3D shoe based on that memory. In that process, we have to be very careful about the content we ingest. People could submit things that are nasty, and also what we produce. When the generative AI does its job, we don't want to spit out something nasty. And so building content moderation into those processes is really important, and we have AI models that help us do that job. One of the things we've done some experiments on, but haven't kind of finished building yet. Not sure whether we will or we won't, but we did an experiment on a decentralized content moderation model where community members could contribute to the moderation rules for that thing, and they could own that moderation set or that moderation AI as a NFT. So that would mean that when maybe there were multiple of these moderation models created, if you were a user that was using an application, you could maybe select a content model from this set, or the developer could select a content model from this set, and it would be transparent who created it and how they created it, so that you could see maybe they had a bias or not, that you agreed with or not. So that was an idea that we built out a prototype on the protocol, and this protocol is generalized for doing lots of different kinds of agent ownership use cases.
Does that answer your question, Jordan? Do you have?
Yeah, it does. It does. Thank you so much for answering my question. I really appreciate it. That's all from me. I'll be dropping the mic now.
Yeah, thank you. I think, Aaron, from where you answered, I just have a very quick one, because you mentioned, ethical behavior and all of that from this content creator. So I was thinking, how about you guys implement like a reputation score based on real engagement, user interaction, and verified contributions? This could actually replace the traditional likes and followers with a more meaningful metric that, reward positive participation. And this would definitely discourage toxic behavior. What do you guys think?
I think it's one of the most obvious problems to solve in the way content is generated and moderated and how well way algorithms surface it, but it's also one of the most hardest to solve. I think it sounds like a simple thing to do, but making something truly Siebel resistance is a very difficult thing. Generally, the systems out there end up with low participation because the human verification hurdles are so high, or they end up being plutocracies where the person with the most money wins, not necessarily the best community outcome wins. And so it's not an area we have specifically focused on because it is an individually hard problem to crack in its own right. There are some great projects out there, though, that I know of, and I think probably the one that has thought it through the best would be the Intuition team. So if you're interested in that area, check out Intuition. One of the very, very OG ETH builders has spent quite a bit of time, years and years, coming up with a system that could solve that problem. I'm not saying it will, and I'm not saying it's perfect, but it's definitely the most comprehensive one I've seen out there.
All right, thank you so much. So next, let's go to Luchis. Luchis, you have been unmuted. You can ask a question, please.
Okay. Hi, Moonshine. Thank you for the opportunity.
How are you today?
Okay. Hi, Aaron. Hope you're doing great.
Yeah, thanks.
Okay. I love the narrative behind your project. You guys are creating a good one to reach out to a greater audience with great utility. But my question is about adoption. Adoption remains a key challenge in metaverse projects. So how does FutureVerse plan to onboard non-crypto naive users and also ensure that the platform is accessible and also
I think we lost you there, Lucius. Are you there?
Yes, I'm here. Can you hear me?
The
I
end
got the
part.
first part of the question, but not the last part.
Oh, okay. So I was saying my question is about adoption. Adoption remains a challenge in metaverse projects. So how does FutureVerse plan to do that? Onboard non-crypto naive users and also ensure that the platform is accessible and automatic for a broader audience. That's my question.
Yeah, I mean, our play there is really to work with these brand partners. They have the audience already. The audience already trusts them. They have content that they love, that they want to, experience and do different things with. So we work with them to reach their audience, power their content experiences, and therefore bring those users into this Web3 space. I think that has the biggest chance of success of bringing people who are new to this technology. Alongside that, make the tools to make it seamless for them. So, these things integrate into the existing user experience. They don't have to go to a different quote unquote Web3 thing. It just becomes part of the platforms that these companies already use, or these brands or these sports teams already use with their users, so it feels seamless to them. If you can do those two things, I think you have a good chance of solving that problem.
Okay, that's a good one. Thank you so much. I really appreciate
problem.
Moonshine.
Yeah, it's okay. Thank you so much, too, for asking the question. Really appreciate it. So I think let's have James. Okay, James, you're here now. You can ask a question, please.
Aaron, hope you guys can hear me.
Hello.
Hey.
Can you hear me now?
Yeah.
Yeah. It's a pleasure having you on here. Yeah, I must say, I like your perspective about it. Really great. So, basically, I just wanted to know how the Future versus Gen 1 AI, text music generator work, and how does it overcome the challenge of making AI generated music around, sound like a human like sound, and also what differentiates it from other competitors out there, something like that.
Yeah, so we actually have in our ecosystem, one of the projects that our team has built is called Gen, Jen. And Gen is a generative music platform. The thing about Gen that is different to, I think, almost everything in the space, and it's generally an approach we take to our generative AI, is that Gen was only trained on music that was licensed specifically by the publishers or artists for the purpose of creating generative AI. We believe it's still the only fairly trained, certified diffusion model out there for music. So rather than steal music off the internet, like many of these other platforms have done, in fact, with not just music, with every kind of content to create the AI, we wanted to work with the industry to do it in a way that was sustainable and included artists and became a tool for artists to use as part of their extension of creativity, not necessarily to replace them, but to expand creativity options for them and also for their communities to become creative with their music.
Did I answer your question, James? Okay, I think Telegram is dealing with his account, but it's okay. I just want to appreciate you for bringing that out. I think that was something that we didn't really touch on. I really appreciate you, Aaron, for covering that aspect. So when you're trying to answer that question, does this mean that if I send you the music that I sang, you can't put it on there? It has to be licensed?
Yeah, so in all of the music that our music model was trained on was officially licensed specifically for training AI, which is quite unique. So we don't just like take any old music and put it on the platform. You could upload a song there if you want to as a starting point, but you have to agree that that you own the right to do that. So if you did create your own music, for example, and you wanted to edit that music using our platform, you can. But you have to make sure when you do that initial upload that you have the right to do that as the copyright owner of the music. And then we actually create on-chain verification every time that happens. So if there is a dispute down the track about the copyright, it can help prove who uploaded it, at what time, a hash of the uploaded sample, a hash of the output when it was created or run through the generative model. So we really do try and kind of give the tools to rights owners in both directions to help make sure that it's a clean process for creating.
I appreciate your answer. I can't believe you took me serious. I'm a terrible singer. I was just trying to but
Well, it is a serious topic because in this future world where these tools are essentially creating all of the content that we interact with, it's an important question about ownership and the value chain of that. If we don't get it right, then we're just allowing these super platforms to own more and more of our life, and that's not a good outcome for society if that happens.
okay. Thank you for that. I think one last question I'll just take care from the comment section because I wasn't able to take any question, but I feel I would like you to cover these is JDG. He's asking what legal framework does FutureVerse use to define ownership? Or I think I really just because he narrowed the question to the AI generated music, which you already covered. But I think me asking about the legal framework, I think just generally about your project, because you guys are, covering or encompassing deep, diverse utilities. So I just want to know, are you guys working legally with any organization or company, just to protect you guys from copyright infringement and all of that?
Yeah, so it's a really important question when you're doing this generative stuff, because when we train a model, say our 3D model, we don't use copyright infringing material. It's a state-of-the-art model. It can generate 3D meshes as good as any other of the big tech models out there, but we didn't use any data in that wasn't fairly acquired for the purpose of training. We had to innovate in the way that the data model works for training in order to get the same quality on less data, because the data we had we're able to acquire legally is much less than if you steal it. So that part of the process, the model itself, is not trained on anything that's infringing. Someone could upload an image of an infringing IP that they don't own, and the model will replicate it, just like if you press print on a picture of Superman, for example, and your printer will print that out. It's not the printer's fault. It didn't know what that was. It just followed a set of instructions. It was never trained on that data, but it got an input and got an output. And so there can be situations where people take content they don't own, put it in, and it produces an output, even though the model doesn't know what it is. And so we have some steps in our process to help try and reduce that, where we can look at what is submitted and try and detect whether it is, registered IP. For the music side of things, for example, every track that is produced is screened against 150 million songs that are registered. And it tries to detect if what is being produced is similar to those existing 150 million songs. And if it is, it will discard that generation and try again to make something that is not similar. So there's no perfect answer to that problem, but we definitely try and build systems in that can help stop that from happening, that stop our training data from being contaminated with things that are infringing, that put the onus on the users to submit things that are not infringing and record those actions, so that if it is disputed in the future, there's evidence that happened. And so it's definitely a multi-step process. It's very hard to contain it entirely, but we definitely make every attempt to try and stay on the right side of it.
Interesting. I just appreciate the way you expatiate your answers, making it very easy for everyone to grasp. You understand, to understand what you guys are trying to build. I really appreciate that you were also able to cover both the, technical aspect of it, the general aspects, and the way you
Thank
guys, put what you guys are offering, the utilities you guys are building, is something incredible. I just want to say shout out to you and your team for, creating a project with utility and not the traditional meme tokens we find every day in the space. These are one of the projects you find hard to come by. So guys, make sure you follow them on their social handles, X, Telegram, because that is where you get updates about the project. And like
Yep.
Aaron earlier on the AMA, that they have a lot of things they are building in the coming weeks and months. And I'm sure that if you listen to this AMA, because it's being recorded, do your own research, you definitely find this an interesting one to keep your tags on. So with that, I think Aaron, this is where we'll be wrapping up the AMA, because we're already past our time mark from 1 hour. So with that, I'd like to still give you the final floor to give your concluding statements.
No, I just want to say thank you for inviting me on. It was a really great conversation and some really intelligent questions from your audience. Like you said, follow us on X. Team out there is always sharing what they're up to, and open to asking questions. We have a great community in Discord as well that can help you figure out all the bits of the ecosystem. Definitely stay tuned for the next month or so as we start to announce some of these partners and show what they've been building on top of these platforms. And if you really do care about digital ownership and the future of the internet, then I think we've got a lot to offer in that respect.
Yeah, thank you so much, Aaron. And thank you all so much for also throwing that question. I really appreciate. Thank you so much. Everyone, take care. Bye.
Bye.